Well, hey there, my friend, and welcome to episode 51. There's no such thing as open and go. We're talking all about curriculum today, and more specifically, how to use curriculum and what role it plays in our homeschools. But before we dive in, I just want to mention that we are coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the Art of Homeschooling podcast. That's right, 1 year. So if you're listening in real time, I have a quick invitation for you. We are going to be recording an Ask Jean Anything episode for the anniversary, for episode number 52. That's just the next episode coming up. So you have a little bit more time. If you want to submit a question for me to answer in that episode, then just go to artofhomeschooling.com/askjean. Then tune in next week for episode number 52 to hear my answer. All right, now on to our conversation about curriculum. Let me start by saying I've taught in probably every setting there is, from public, private school classrooms to tutoring, small groups, homeschooling, and I have never met a teacher, including myself, in any of these settings who has used a curriculum exactly as is. I think it's just the nature of teaching. We tend to buy multiple curricula, in fact, and lots of resources. We use bits and pieces from different sources because we want to individualize the lessons. We want to be creative and excited about what we're teaching. And we want to bring the very best that we can to the children in front of us, to the children that we're teaching, to our families at home. It's funny because the most often question I get asked from new homeschoolers is, what curriculum should I buy? And the person asking the question usually really believes that once they figure that out, then they're done, right? They're good to go. They're ready to homeschool. And to that, I say, not quite. And then for more experienced homeschoolers, I would venture to guess that we all have bookshelves full of resources, right? That's great. But I would also venture to guess that all of those resources and curricula might not be getting you what you're looking for. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. Oftentimes, though, we continue searching and searching even after the bookshelves are full. I'm raising my hand here. Because we think that finding the curriculum and the resources is the end of the preparation process. But the truth is, what we are searching for is not the perfect curriculum. For starters, the perfect homeschooling curriculum does not even exist because it's not possible for someone else to write a curriculum for our children. Heck, even if we wrote a curriculum plan today for next month, things will change before we get there. So what we are really searching for is confidence and ease. We don't want to struggle. And somehow we've allowed ourselves to believe that the right curriculum is going to alleviate those feelings of struggle and maybe even practically do the teaching for us. I know we don't really believe that, but there's something in the back of our minds that keeps driving us to buy more, to search for more, to keep looking. Well, I'm here to tell you, after 25 plus years of homeschooling, that we really just need to dive in and get on with it. That's how we're going to bring the learning to our children. And that's how we're going to discover what comes next. what we observe their behavior to see how they're responding to the lessons that we're bringing them, and we see how they learn. And I would say that here's the most direct way that I can say this. Stop searching for someone else to tell you what to do, and instead get creative. You could even use the curriculum and resources you already have. What a concept. So let me say this another way. The most important part of the curriculum is not the plan on paper, but rather it's the lessons and activities that we do with our children and what they learn from those experiences. So our job as homeschooling parents is to create the space, right? The space for learning and to offer opportunities to our children. It's also important to know that you can create your own lessons that suit your particular child or children and family. That is, in fact, exactly what Rudolf Steiner had in mind. He's the founder of the very first Waldorf school over 100 years ago. And here's what he said. This is a quote. "Where is the book in which the teacher can read about what teaching is? The children themselves are this book. We should not learn to teach out of any book other than the one lying open before us and consisting of the children themselves." Wow. That is just a direct inspiration for what we should do. And I would say an invitation to us as homeschool educators. Does this mean we should avoid buying curriculum altogether? No, not necessarily. But it might mean that we need to shift our perception a bit of what curriculum really is, and to empower ourselves to create our own curriculum or customize what we have. Here's another great quote from Rudolf Steiner. He said, "Every education is self-education, and as teachers, we can only provide the environment for children's self-education. We have to provide the most favorable conditions where, through our agency, children can educate themselves according to their destinies." I truly hope that this encourages you to use the curriculum and resources you already have, or go to the library to find an inspiring book, or buy a few key resources for specific blocks or units of study that you plan on doing with your kids. Because finding curriculum and resources for homeschooling is only the beginning of the process. When I look back on our years of homeschooling, I so clearly remember focusing on what curriculum to buy. But I can also clearly see now that it's the experiences that made the biggest difference, not the written curriculum on paper. Like the year we went to Jamestown and Williamsburg in the spring, and most of our lessons that year were reading stories about explorers and being inspired by the planning and preparation for that trip. And what a great year that was. So memorable, so much fun with lots of hands-on activities, painting, drawing, map making. We made a lot of maps, hand-drawn, sculpted maps, all kinds of maps. Or the year when my youngest was in kindergarten and the boys who were a bit older, like maybe 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And the boys, they helped to lead circle time for all of us. Lots of songs and verses and movement games that year. Then there's the year that we really dug into making main lesson books of a wider variety. So we didn't just use the pre-bound blank books, but we created main lesson books full of photos and drawings, more like scrapbooking, and we had a lot of fun with that. Through the years, it all added up to a homeschooling life that felt rich and rewarding and full of so much learning and so many strong connections. If I'm being honest with myself, I sure wish I had been able to relax a bit more and know that in the early years that what we were doing in those early years was enough. That was okay. That it was okay that I wasn't doing it all every single day, right? That I wasn't completing all the things from a written curriculum like a checklist. I wish I could have let go of feeling like a homeschooling failure in the beginning, wondering, why is everyone else able to do this but me? Yep, I felt that way too. And it was mostly driven by looking at how much of the curriculum, like the purchased curriculum on paper, I was not doing instead of looking at everything we were doing. Because really, no matter what resources or packaged curriculum we may choose to buy, we each create our own curriculum anyway. It's not even possible to use someone else's curriculum exactly as it's written. When we create our own curriculum, we get to look at our own children, the children before us, and to bring them what they need. You know that saying, one size fits all? So I was thinking about this, and I think it's more like maybe one size fits some, but probably it might even be one size fits none when it comes to curriculum. I get why we're all tempted to search for just the right open and go curriculum so that we can relax a little and be ready for teaching, right? Be ready for what we're going to do on Monday. It just doesn't work that way. So have you ever purchased, this is a parallel to me. Have you ever purchased or downloaded a free menu plan, right? So you want to start, I've done this so many times, we want to start eating healthy again. And so I'm going to download this free menu plan. I have a bunch of them on my computer, actually. These are just a few that I've collected over the years. I have an allergy-free menu planner, gluten-free menu plan, nourishing foods menu planner. I mean, it goes on, right? And here's my question. Have I ever used those plans exactly as they're written? No, never, not once. In fact, I'm sure that I could have just taken one of them and modeled my own plan after that one, or just created my own to begin with more easily. It would have been easier. Sometimes it's trickier, it's harder to refashion someone else's plan than to start from scratch and create your own. Truthfully, I've tried lots of homeschooling curriculum, especially in those earlier years, and each and every one has its strengths and weaknesses. In addition, each is better suited for different personalities, right? The personality of the teacher, the personality of the students. So don't get me wrong. I appreciate that homeschooling curriculum packages exist these days. There weren't very many of them around when we very, very first started homeschooling. It can be a great starting point, especially when we're new to homeschooling. But there's a critical caveat to keep in mind here. And that is, buying curriculum is only a starting point. It's not the end point. Really, what we all need to do is create a unique plan that works for us and for our children, just as Steiner said. And really, it's not as hard as it seems. So if you want some help with this, please reach out to me. I love helping homeschoolers look at their own unique situation and craft a plan that works for them. So I got this note recently from Sarah, a homeschooling mother of 4, and she said, this is so perfect. She said, I've collected so many materials and lesson plans from over 15 years of homeschooling so that I wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. But I rarely ever use these saved materials. The truth is, each child and each lesson inspires me to reinvent the wheel anyway. My inspiration is always different, and my kids are different. So when we start with the child in front of us, we're reinventing the wheel each and every day, because truly there's no such thing as open and go curriculum. My experience was just like Sarah's, exactly like that, even as a classroom teacher and especially as a homeschooling mom. We are always customizing and individualizing and refreshing and updating our lessons. That's why here at Art of Homeschooling, I don't publish curriculum. Instead, my mission is to empower and inspire you to customize and even create your own curriculum to suit the needs of your children and your unique family. That's exactly why I created the Homeschool with Waldorf membership community, so you can learn to individualize your lessons as you go. If you want to learn more about the membership, then I'm going to give you a link to go to find more details. And inside Homeschool with Waldorf, you'll find classes, coaching, and community. So here's where you can get all the details. Go to artofhomeschooling.com/homeschool with Waldorf. So I'll wrap up today's episode with this. Just a reminder for you, there's no such thing as open and go, because the truth is you create your own curriculum, and that is exactly what your children need.